Hey, welcome to the Fun Astrology Podcast for Sunday, July 21st. Thomas Miller back. I've been thinking, on Sundays would be a great day to talk about just some general concepts about astrology, but as I was looking at the chart for this morning, something jumped out at me and I thought, we should talk about this because it will affect not only today, so those of you catching this today on Sunday will catch the kind of the tail end of this, depending on when you listen, but there is an aspect that's formed up today that is going to be in place for most of the rest of the week, one way or another. So I thought, let's just talk about this because it involves work. So if you're catching this on Sunday morning, pull up your cup of coffee. We'll still chat, but we are going to talk about something going on today. One of the coolest things about astrology is how it affects all these different areas of our life. And many of you are probably not super advanced astrologers. You wouldn't be listening to this. You'd be reading your own charts and doing your own thing, right? I've just talked to so many people who don't have that fundamental understanding of astrology, and I thought, well, let's just play with it, and if you listen to this over time, you'll pick some things up and learn some things, and if you want to grow in it, then be a great way to do it, and if not, I'll just try to give you a snapshot of the day of what's going on, and you can take that and apply it. So that was the intention behind this podcast. And by the way, thank you so much for the great comments that you're putting up on iTunes. Apple is switching their platform in the fall. It's going to be in, I think, October. But they are finally getting rid of iTunes. Yeah, you can go ahead and applaud. That's a good thing. iTunes is gone as of this fall. Yes. Worst disaster. I love Apple. I've made my living off of Apple computers for about 20 years. But iTunes, that one needed to go. I think it already has gone on the phone, and if you search on the phone, you look at the podcast app, and that's where you get these things. And then on the computer, it's still embedded in iTunes. And I've got a really good position going on the computer, and I'm on the phone too, so if you'll just keep those comments and those 5-star reviews coming, maybe we can bump this thing on up there, and then more people will be able to share in what we're doing here. So thank you again for that. I really appreciate it. But one of the coolest things about astrology is just how it fits so many different areas of our life. I mean, that's the section of the houses. When we talk about the 12 houses in astrology, each one of them touches some part of our life. I don't talk about the houses as much here, because they rotate with the Earth's axis. It's the way of catching the Earth's rotation and trying to implant it on a two-dimensional wheel. That's part of the house system moving. So all through the day, they move every about 2.5 hours. It's where they'll change from one sign. Planets will move from one sign to the next. So that's not worth keeping up with for here because you'll listen to this through all times of the day, and the house system has changed from whatever one house to another through the day. But there are 4 main points, anchor points, if you will, in the chart. One is called the Ascendent. That is the point where the sun comes up over the horizon. Typically, depending on what house system you're looking at, it is at the 9 o'clock position on the clock face. Opposite that is the descendant. When the sun, guess what? When you're thinking astrology, think opposites. Think polarity. Think duality. So if the sun comes up, it goes down. That's the descendant. 3 o'clock position. Okay? What happens midday? Sun is up where? Right overhead, right? That's called the Midheaven, and that is your career. It's your shining place in the world. It's the sun's highest point in the sky. It is your highest point in your shining brightly in the world. And then the opposite of that is the IC, the Imum Coeli. You might hear it pronounced Cheli, Imum Cheli. It basically means the bottom point of the sky. And it basically represents your home, where you plant your feet, where you lay your head. So the Ascendant and the Midheaven, okay, that's who you are in the world. Oh, the Ascendant, too, I was going to mention. In soul-based astrology, esoteric astrology, which is the form that I tend to look at and love the most because it basically assumes that we are on a soul journey and this is the map. That's what I love, 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 love. I found my treasure map and I can navigate my life so much better. So the Ascendant in soul-based astrology, your rising sign, you've heard of your rising sign, right? There are three main things when you talk about astrology you should always know. Your sun sign, that's the sign that you were born. Everybody knows I'm an Aries or I'm a Taurus or I'm a Cancer, whatever. That's where the sun is on the sign that the sun is in on the moment of your birth. Then the moon sign, same thing. Where was the moon located? Right now as I'm recording this, it's in Pisces. So that would be a Pisces moon. Your rising sign, which again, as I'm doing this, is in Libra. According to esoteric astrology, that is much more important from a soul journey perspective because that is kind of the emulation, if you will, the projection that your soul wants to grow into in this incarnation. So that's a lot of exploration on that topic, but that's not the aspect that I wanted to mention. The Ascendant, so this who you are in the world, this projection out, is in a squared relationship with the Midheaven. That's your career. That is in a square with Chiron, which we basically know as the wounded healer, which is opposite the Ascendant. Okay? So it makes a triangle. It makes a pyramid standing on its base. So the base of the pyramid, the Ascendant on one side of the base, Chiron on the other, and the point of the pyramid is the Midheaven. That's going to basically last through the week. So let's put it together. You could have some stuff coming up just pulling on yourself to deal with that unhealed wound. You know, that thing that's kind of, you might have found what your Chiron is. You might not. I know I've found mine. But it's like if that might just pull on you a little bit this week. Okay? So what is it that is like that wound that you know once it gets turned around is going to be one of your greatest achievements this life? Like, yes, I nailed that one, right? That's what we're looking for. And that could rear its head this week. And it could show up in the workplace, or it could show up in your public, out there, expressed persona. So just put all that together. See if that kind of energy shows up for you. Now, there's an offset to this, and that is while you were asleep last night, the moon crossed over Neptune, which is in retrograde. All right, the moon moves around the chart the fastest, and when it crosses over one of your natal planets, it can hyper-trigger that planet's characteristics. So what we have, in essence, right now today, is the moon has kind of stirred up Neptune, if you will. Now, normally Neptune could be characterized as creating rose-colored glasses, foggy glasses, not seeing clearly. But in retrograde, it brings that inward. So I'm thinking during this Neptunian retrograde, what I've been experiencing, and it might have been partially from intention, but it's been there, is more clarity. So it's almost like it took the rose-colored glasses off of Neptune and it put greater clarity on looking inside. So there's some real psychic juju around the moon and Neptune today. It will be falling off as the day goes by because the moon has crossed by already. But that's some pretty cool stuff if you want to play with that. So if you stayed all the way to the end of this one, that's your bonus for making it to the bottom of the barrel. Thanks for sticking around and enjoy that psychic energy. Great time to take your journal and just sit, thoughtless. Let the universe speak. Ooh, uh-huh.